Hello, steadfast Taurus. Something subtle may be shifting beneath the surface today, and you could notice it first in places where what once felt comfortable no longer feels quite as certain. Rather than comparing where you are now with an earlier version of your life, or with someone else's pace, you are being encouraged to notice what has quietly matured within you. Your strength may reveal itself less through being noticed and more through the calm certainty of knowing what deserves your time, your care, and your continued investment. That distinction becomes especially important if old emotions begin finding their way back into your awareness. A familiar person, a memory, or even a feeling you thought you had already put away could return with surprising tenderness, carrying both warmth and questions that were never fully answered. If that happens, consider what you are actually missing: the person or situation itself, or the sense of familiarity and security once associated with it. Sometimes the heart reaches backward because it recognizes the landscape, even when that landscape can no longer support who you are becoming. There is no need to force an immediate answer. What resurfaces may simply give you another opportunity to understand your emotional needs with greater honesty, whether that leads toward reconnection, clarification, or a deeper recognition that you have changed. Healing here can be quiet, more like rain slowly entering dry soil than a dramatic breakthrough. You may begin seeing that something can remain meaningful without needing to become part of your future in the same form it held in your past. That awareness may also reach into your personal or creative life, where a desire for change is beginning to gather momentum. For Taurus, reinvention does not have to mean tearing everything down. Sometimes it means realizing that the roots have outgrown the container that once protected them. Healthy boundaries can help you make that transition without closing yourself away from new experiences. You can protect what is precious to you while still leaving a gate open for unfamiliar forms of love, creativity, connection, and self-expression. The deeper question running through this period is simple but important. What are you ready to grow beyond, even if part of you still finds comfort there? Challenges may reveal where loyalty has quietly turned into attachment, where patience has become postponement, or where security has become resistance to necessary movement. None of that erases the value of what came before. The seasons behind you helped strengthen the ground beneath you. Your resilience has been built through both satisfying experiences and difficult ones, and that accumulated wisdom can help you make more grounded choices now. As always, take this reading as a collection of possibilities rather than a fixed prediction. Some themes may reflect what you are living through closely, while others may have little connection to your circumstances, and there is no need to make something fit simply because it appears in a reading. Keep what gives you useful perspective and allow the rest to move past without attaching unnecessary meaning to it. Your judgment, circumstances, and choices remain far more important than any symbolic interpretation offered here. As we look at the themes surrounding love, money, well-being, and family connections, two numbers you might keep in mind symbolically are *6 and 24. 6 carries an artistic association with Venus, Taurus's traditional ruling planet, while 24 echoes that same 6 energy and fits this reading's emphasis on value, care, and what you are patiently cultivating. Rather than treating these numbers as promises of luck, you might simply notice when they appear and use them as a reminder to return to what feels steady and intentional. The color that fits this atmosphere is deep forest green. Carrying the imagery of rooted growth, restoration, and something living that does not need to rush in order to become strong. Your projects may become especially absorbing today and into the near future. Something you have worked on patiently could begin showing more visible signs of progress, almost like the first green shoots appearing after a long stretch when all the important work was happening underground. This is a good time to consider which tools, skills, or practical resources could help you develop that work further rather than relying only on determination. Progress does not always require more effort. Sometimes it requires better support, and support may be closer than you assume. There could be people around you who genuinely want to make part of the road easier, whether through advice, practical assistance, encouragement, or simply being present when you need another perspective. You may also find yourself appreciating the people who have quietly earned a place in your life. and a small gesture of warmth can carry more weight than an elaborate display. A thoughtful message, a sincere compliment, or simply giving someone your undivided attention can remind both of you why that connection matters. At the same time, your confidence in your own resources may be particularly strong. That self-reliance can serve you well, but it does not mean every burden needs to remain entirely in your hands, especially when several responsibilities begin competing for your attention. Asking for help does not diminish what you have built. In some situations, it is precisely what allows that foundation to remain sustainable. The same principle applies to close relationships, where unresolved matters may improve more naturally when you approach them patiently instead of trying to settle everything at once. There is also a stronger emphasis now on saying what you genuinely want rather than assuming other people already understand it. Focused intention becomes more meaningful when your choices, priorities, and daily behavior are moving in the same direction. You may have been tending a project, a dream, or even a different version of your life for longer than anyone else realized, with much of that development happening where nobody could see it. What seems slow from the outside may now begin proving that it was never truly standing still. Think of an orchard that has been cared for season after season. The harvest does not suddenly erase all the quiet work that came before it. If encouraging results begin appearing, allow yourself to appreciate them while continuing to tend what made those results possible. Consistency matters more here than chasing every new possibility, simply because it has appeared, and your attention becomes more powerful when it is not divided among too many competing directions. What you have been cultivating quietly may finally be beginning to show above the soil, giving you a clearer sense of which path deserves the next measure of your patience, energy, and care. Something you have been cultivating may be becoming harder for others to overlook, Taurus. This is less about suddenly stepping into a spotlight and more about realizing that your value was never dependent on who recognized it first. In love or in your professional life, progress may already be taking shape through choices you have repeated quietly, long before anyone could see the results. Even people who once questioned your direction may eventually have to acknowledge what patience has allowed you to build. The Knight of Pentacles fits this part of your story more naturally than a rush of fiery pursuit. Symbolically, this knight speaks of an approach that develops through consistency, suggesting that someone could be interested in you without revealing everything at once. Their attention may show itself through repeated gestures, practical effort, or a message that feels more deliberate than dramatic. What matters is not how quickly someone approaches, but whether their behavior continues to match what they say. There may still be hesitation beneath that attraction. Someone could feel drawn toward the steadiness they experience around you, while simultaneously recognizing that genuine closeness would require them to loosen defenses they have relied on for a long time. If they seem distant, inconsistent, or unusually cautious, resist the urge to immediately fill in the silence for them. Attraction can open a door, but it cannot do another person's emotional work. This is where your boundaries become especially important. Rather than assuming that every complicated connection is dangerous or that unseen enemies are working against you, pay attention to observable patterns, mixed signals, unhealthy attachments, outside interference, or behavior that repeatedly leaves you unsettled. You do not need to chase someone into emotional readiness or prove that the connection deserves a chance. Let consistency reveal what words and chemistry alone cannot. The Ten of Pentacles brings the conversation back to something deeply aligned with the larger Taurus theme: what can actually last. Traditionally, this card speaks to accumulated resources, family structures, security, and the kind of success that extends beyond a single exciting moment. Financial improvement may be part of that picture, but its deeper question is about legacy, what you are building now that could continue supporting you later. The disruptions you have experienced may look different when viewed from this perspective, especially if they pushed you to create a foundation that depends less on circumstances you cannot control. A shift in status or responsibility could develop from that foundation, though it may happen gradually rather than through one dramatic breakthrough. You may find yourself trusted with greater responsibility, recognized for something you have mastered, or simply more certain about the standards you want your life to reflect. At the same time, a practical transition involving travel, your home, or your living arrangement could become worth considering in the near future. If change feels unsettling, remember that stability is not always about remaining in the same place. Sometimes it is about creating a structure strong enough to move with you. Your physical well-being deserves the same patient attention. If you have recently noticed tension around your neck, shoulders, back, or recurring discomfort after long periods of work, it may be useful to examine everyday factors such as posture, prolonged sitting, movement, and the setup of your workspace. Small adjustments, a more supportive chair, regular movement, stretching, or greater awareness of how you hold your body may help, depending on what is causing the discomfort. Persistent, severe, or unusual symptoms are better discussed with a qualified healthcare professional rather than assumed to have one simple cause. Professionally, this is a good period to let your experience become visible through the quality of your work. You may have developed methods, practical knowledge, or a particular way of solving problems that feels ordinary to you, only because you have practiced it for so long. Other people may recognize more value in that expertise than you realize, especially when you communicate it clearly, instead of assuming the results will always speak for themselves. Recognition, stronger opportunities, or improved compensation are possibilities worth being prepared to discuss if your contribution increasingly supports them. If you're looking for work, the process may have required more patience than you expected. A promising contact or offer could emerge in the near future, so remain attentive to email, phone calls, application portals, and other ways an employer might reach you. Rather than expecting one opportunity to transform everything overnight, look closely at whether the position offers the stability, compensation, responsibilities, and room for development you actually want. The right opportunity should make sense after the excitement settles. Money carries an especially important psychological theme here. An opening that previously seemed distant could begin moving faster, perhaps through a conversation, professional connection, or earlier contact that did not initially seem significant. If that happens, acceleration should not be mistaken for certainty. Before signing an agreement, committing funds, or accepting conditions, give yourself enough time to understand what is being offered and what it asks from you in return. This is also an opportunity to reconsider what financial security means to you. Money can support comfort, choice, and independence, but the amount you possess does not determine the amount of worth you carry as a person. You may be noticing an old scarcity pattern, the instinct to hold tightly simply because some part of you fears there will never be enough. Ask yourself whether your caution is serving a thoughtful plan or protecting an old fear that no longer reflects your actual circumstances. Wanting greater security does not automatically make you materialistic, just as spending money on something meaningful does not automatically make you irresponsible. Something you have postponed buying, improving, or investing in may deserve another look if it genuinely supports your life and fits comfortably within your resources. The important distinction is intention. Are you choosing it because it adds lasting value, or because you're trying to soothe an emotion or prove something? Taurus energy becomes particularly useful here when patience is treated as discernment rather than hesitation. Be especially careful with opportunities built around urgency and promises of unusually fast returns. If someone needs you to decide before you have time to understand the details, that pressure itself is information worth considering. Your stronger position may come from tending the resources already in your hands instead of reaching for every possibility that appears. Reviewing recurring expenses, negotiating a better rate, organizing accounts, or strengthening savings can look unremarkable in the moment while creating considerably more freedom over time. Love brings the same question of security into a more intimate setting. If tension develops with a partner, your ability to stay grounded could create room for a conversation that would be impossible if both of you were simply defending your positions. You may discover that the real issue beneath a disagreement is not the surface argument at all, but whether each person still feels valued, heard, and emotionally safe within the relationship. Sometimes calm does not remove the difficult subject. It finally makes the difficult subject possible to discuss. And if you have shared a long history with someone, another question may begin quietly pressing for attention. Are you still choosing this relationship because it continues to grow and nourish both of you? Or has familiarity become so comfortable that change itself feels more frightening than the problems you have learned to live around? Feeling uncertain does not automatically mean the relationship is wrong, nor does longevity automatically mean everything within it is right. What matters now is beginning to recognize the difference between a bond that provides genuine security and one you hold tightly simply because you already know its shape. If you're in a relationship, this may be a good time to speak plainly about what helps you feel secure with another person. Rather than letting possessiveness, assumptions, or unspoken expectations accumulate beneath the surface, explain what trust looks like to you and ask your partner what it looks like to them. You do not need to turn every uncertainty into a larger question about whether the relationship is meant to last. Sometimes love becomes easier to understand when you stop examining it from a distance and begin paying attention to how the two of you actually treat each other from day to day. Consistency matters here, but consistency should not become control. A healthy bond can offer reassurance without requiring either person to constantly prove where they stand, and loyalty feels very different when it is freely given rather than monitored. If something has been bothering you, name the feeling before it hardens into resentment or quiet withdrawal. The goal is not to remove every uncertainty from love, but to create enough honesty that uncertainty does not have to fill the empty spaces between you. If you're single, there may be someone whose interest has been developing more quietly than dramatically. You could also be the one hesitating, especially if you prefer to understand where you stand before investing emotionally in someone new. That measured pace can protect your heart, but another person may occasionally interpret it as a lack of interest. A simple conversation, invitation, or warm response may be enough to show that the door is open without forcing either of you to rush through it. Keep the beginning uncomplicated. You do not need to decide immediately whether someone could become a permanent part of your life. First, notice how you feel in their company and whether their actions remain steady over time. What begins as an ordinary conversation could gradually reveal more potential than either of you expected. Some relationships grow more like a garden than a wildfire, becoming meaningful because both people keep returning with care. Family carries a similarly quiet theme today, Taurus. Something that has existed beneath the surface may become easier to recognize, whether it involves your biological relatives or the people you have consciously chosen as family. You may suddenly see an old pattern differently, or someone close to you may speak with a vulnerability they have rarely shown before. What emerges does not necessarily need an immediate solution. Your most valuable response may simply be presence. Resist the instinct to fix everything, provide the perfect advice, or take responsibility for another person's emotional process before they have even finished expressing it. Put aside the phone, the unfinished tasks, and the mental list of what needs to happen next for a moment. Sometimes another person feels safest not when you repair the situation for them, but when you show that you can remain beside them while the situation is still unresolved. Questions around responsibilities and boundaries could also surface. Perhaps you have been carrying a role for so long that everyone, including you, has begun treating it as permanent. Or perhaps your attention has been directed elsewhere and someone close to you has quietly felt overlooked. Neither guilt nor defensiveness will clarify what needs to change. A more useful conversation asks what each person can realistically give and what no longer feels sustainable. Family, after all, is not something preserved unchanged behind glass. It is a living arrangement between people whose circumstances, capacities, and needs continue to evolve. Inheritance is not limited to names, property, or traditions. People can also inherit ways of loving, remaining silent, handling conflict, carrying responsibility, and defining what safety is supposed to feel like. Becoming aware of those patterns gives you a chance to decide which ones still deserve a place in the home you are creating emotionally. If distance exists between you and certain relatives, memories may surface unexpectedly. Nostalgia does not automatically mean you should reconnect, just as maintaining distance does not require you to erase everything that once mattered. You can miss someone and still understand why a boundary became necessary. You can also appreciate parts of your history without reopening the door before you genuinely feel ready. For some Taurus viewers, this may be where a deeper form of healing becomes possible. breaking an inherited pattern can sometimes be a more meaningful expression of care than repeating it simply because previous generations did. Whether you are repairing a relationship or protecting a boundary, let the choice come from awareness rather than obligation. The question is not only where you came from, but what kind of emotional home you are creating from everything you have learned. That home may include people who share no biological connection with you at all. Friendships can become places where you are understood without constantly explaining yourself, where affection is expressed through consistency, small gestures, shared meals, familiar laughter, and simply showing up. Belonging is not always found by returning to the oldest roots. Sometimes new roots form wherever you finally have enough room to grow. Your physical and emotional energy may be asking for a slower rhythm as well. If recent days have been demanding, you might notice that your patience becomes thinner when your schedule grows crowded, which is often a useful signal that rest needs to become part of the plan rather than an afterthought. Give yourself permission to reduce unnecessary noise. Step away from constant messages or screens for a while and return to simple routines that help you feel settled. Rest is not lost momentum when it allows you to return with clearer attention. Interestingly, this quieter energy does not prevent you from making a strong impression on people you may continue seeing in the near future. Your impact could come through reliability, warmth, attentive listening, and the sense that you're genuinely present rather than trying to impress anyone. Those qualities tend to reveal themselves gradually, which suits the larger rhythm of this reading. The people worth knowing often notice how you make a space feel, not merely how loudly you enter it. Be mindful, however, of withdrawing when something matters simply because another person has irritated or disappointed you. Acting indifferent can protect pride for a moment while accidentally distancing you from a conversation, opportunity, or plan you actually wanted to be part of. If you care, allow yourself to care without treating that openness as weakness. Clear communication will serve you better than expecting someone else to recognize what sits behind your silence. The same restraint applies to your workload. Avoid filling every available hour simply because unfinished tasks make you uncomfortable. Once exhaustion takes over, even your natural persistence can become counterproductive. Choose what genuinely needs your attention and allow less urgent responsibilities to wait. Slow, deliberate progress is especially valuable now because it keeps you connected to the quality of what you're building, rather than merely the quantity of what you complete. In terms of compatibility, 3 kinds of zodiac energy may feel particularly supportive around you today or in the near future, though individual relationships will always depend on much more than sun signs. Asked Virgo may bring a practical, attentive quality that makes planning, problem-solving, or everyday conversation feel refreshingly straightforward. There can be comfort in not needing to make everything dramatic for the connection to feel meaningful. Sometimes mutual care is clearest in the details. Capricorn may resonate with your desire to build towards something substantial. Conversations could naturally turn toward plans, responsibilities, ambitions, or the kind of future each of you wants to create, and that shared respect for effort can produce a steady sense of understanding. Meanwhile, may bring a softer emotional counterpoint, encouraging conversations about home, memory, affection, or belonging that reach beneath your practical exterior. Each of these connections offers something different, but the common thread is the same. Relationships may feel most nourishing when you do not have to choose between feeling grounded and feeling genuinely seen. Dear Taurus, thank you for spending this time with me and allowing these reflections to accompany you for a while. I hope something here has helped you understand what you've been feeling, or perhaps given language to a change you could already sense taking shape beneath the surface. You do not need to have every answer immediately. Sometimes clarity arrives gradually, once you give yourself enough quiet to recognize what still feels nourishing and what you may have begun to outgrow. There is something meaningful about returning to a space like this and reflecting together, especially when life itself seems to be rearranging familiar ground. If this reading resonated with you, you can leave a like to support the channel and help these messages reach others who may appreciate the same kind of reflection. And if you would like to continue sharing this space, you can subscribe and turn on notifications so you can find the next reading when it arrives. Thank you for your trust, your attention, and the time you chose to spend here. As you move forward, remember that growth does not always announce itself dramatically. Sometimes the first sign is simply realizing that an old container no longer gives your roots enough room. Keep listening to what feels steady without confusing familiarity with belonging, and give yourself permission to make space for whatever is beginning to grow beyond it.